Hello my friends, I hope you're well. I hope you managed to enjoy the first part of this list and that it hasn't turned you off from coming back. I am your host, Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture, and here are 20 things you never knew about Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, Part 2. Number 10, a family affair. Star Trek V, for William Shatner at least, was very much a family affair. His youngest daughter, Melanie, appears as the yeoman who hands him his jacket near the beginning of the film. She also then returns to help him with a failed attempt at a captain's log. This, in a way, was a follow-on from an Oldsmobile commercial in which she had appeared in 1988, one which ended with her father beaming into the car with her. She was the third of his daughters to appear in the franchise, with his elder children, Elizabeth and Leslie, appearing in the original series episode, Mary. Elizabeth would go on to write a book about her father's experiences while directing this film. Number 9. The novel tries to explain the time and distance issue badly. Of the plot issues in Star Trek V, one fairly glaring problem is that the galaxy seems to shrink in a matter of minutes when compared to what had been shown in both the original series, bar one episode, and The Next Generation. The planet at the center of the galaxy is reached in mere hours by the Enterprise A, despite the vast distances the ship would have had to travel. In Where No Man Has Gone Before, the original Enterprise warps to the edge of the galaxy. When the barrier is seen again, it is thanks to the tinkering by the Kelvins on the engines. This was Star Trek's own subtle retcon of that earlier gaffe. The novelization for Star Trek V attempts to explain the Enterprise A's enormous burst of speed. Sybok is able to tune the nacelles and shields so that the ship is able to reach Shakari relatively easy, and a lot faster than intended. If one allows for the suspension of disbelief, then that's fine and the story can continue. So, how did the Klingons get there without any damage from the barrier in the same time frame? Number 8. Sorry Jim, you're stuck with us. William Shatner had story approval on Star Trek V, which gave him the power to change what he needed where he saw fit. That meant absolutely nothing, however, when Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelley flat out refused a story change that Shatner sought to make. In his treatment, both Spock and McCoy would join Sybok, leaving Kirk alone. Nimoy was the first to speak up. He said that after everything the two characters had been through together, including Kirk sacrificing his commission, his ship, and even his son to save Spock, there would never be a chance that Spock could betray him. It was too far out of character to work, and Nimoy stuck to his guns. Kelley followed suit, arguing that there was no way McCoy would turn against both of his oldest friends. Shatner was forced to concede the point that they were probably right, reflecting years later that if someone had unilaterally decided a seismic change of Kirk's character without consulting him, he was likely to hit the roof as well. For its flaws, Star Trek V contains some of the best scenes of friendship between the main trio, somewhat ironic considering the turn it could have taken. Number 7. V'ger makes a cameo. As already stated, the effects on Star Trek V were a rushed affair, suffering from the absence of ILM. However, like most of the films in the franchise, it reused some footage to help. Several shots of the Bird of Prey are lifted from the search for Spock, while the footage of the Enterprise A in space dock is taken from the voyage home. There is not a thing wrong in reusing footage. Frankly, it can make a cheaper production look sleeker. Star Trek Generations would slip up here in its reuse of the Bird of Prey explosion from the undiscovered country, but in all of these cases, the footage that's reused makes sense. That is less applicable to the decision to reuse the energy weapon fired by V'ger in the motion picture as the torpedo effect in Star Trek V. The first 4 films used the same orange glowing effect for torpedoes. The complete change here serves as another example of the audience being lifted out of the events of the movie, only to be reminded of a far better film. At least the motion picture is a far superior visual film than Star Trek V. Number 6. I miss my old chair. The bridge on the Enterprise A looks very different from its previous appearance in the voyage home. There's a very good reason for this, as most of it was a complete rebuild and redesign for the movie. The original plan was to use the set that featured as the Enterprise, the Reliant, the Grissom and the Saratoga over the first 4 films. However, between productions, there were a couple of contributing factors as to why that set was ineligible. First, while in storage, it had been exposed to a windstorm. This caused sufficient damage to require a new set. Sources differ on this, as another potential reason was that much of it was stripped for use in The Next Generation. Chekhov and Sulu's station, the turbo lifts and the handrails are among the only pre-existing parts of the bridge to return. Kirk's joke is a nod to this though. To be fair, the new chair does look far more comfortable. We're all about armrests here at Trek Culture. Number 5. The sad tale of the rock men that never were. The Rock Men have, at various points in the story of Star Trek V, been hailed as potential saviors, but for the grace of God, or a doomed project from the off. William Shatner had planned a climactic face-off on the surface of Shakari, with these creatures appearing to fight Kirk, Spock and McCoy. They looked ridiculous. Now, a ridiculous suit can be made fantastic in post, so the actual behind-the-scenes footage could have been taken with a pinch of salt had the finished product paid off. Unfortunately, the Rock Men never saw the light of day, at least not in terms of after effects. The suits were clunky, the actors could barely move in them, and they were leaking cigarette smoke from every hole. This had been Shatner's clever idea to bypass complicated effects. Just blow smoke through a tube, and it would seep out of the costumes, painting the image of a sizzling heat, but it was not meant to be. There wasn't enough time in the shooting schedule to pull off the effects that he wanted. In the years that have passed, despite the images that have leaked, both Harve Bennett and Ralph Winter have quashed the idea that it was a budget problem that killed the Rock Men. They had a much simpler explanation. They just looked bloody stupid. Number 4. All I ask is for a tall ship. Though unnamed in the film, the observation lounge in The Final Frontier serves as the Enterprise A's very own 10 forward set. It was a new build for this film, featuring the antique steering wheel, on which the legend "to boldly go where no man has gone before" is emblazoned. Several key scenes in the film take place here, including the share your pain exchange between Sybok and the main trio. An issue arose when it came to depicting the set as an exterior. There are 3 large windows that look directly forward. Toward the end of the film, the bright blue Shakari planet is shown through these portals, but according to Michael Okuda, the plans to represent them on the filming model simply couldn't come to fruition. The original plan would have been the addition of these windows at the front of the saucer section, pointed directly forward. The refurbishment that was required on the filming model pushed any hope to include these windows away, as there wasn't anywhere near enough time to include them. Therefore, in the film, this observation lounge contains windows, frankly, to nowhere. Number 3. Dating the film is a bit of a challenge. The original series era movies, from The Wrath of Khan until The Final Frontier, all seemingly take place in 2286. The Final Frontier, in fact, follows the voyage home by a matter of weeks, which itself was only 3 months after the end of Search for Spock. All 4 films are then crammed into a very short space of time. The Romulan ambassador to Nimbus 3, Caitlin Dar, states that the planet was established 20 years prior as the first great attempt by the Romulan, Klingon, and Federation governments to foster a peace treaty. However, the 3rd season of The Next Generation premiered not long after the film's release. In its first episode, Evolution, Data states that there hasn't been a ship-wide systems failure in 79 years. As this is most likely a tongue-in-cheek reference to The Final Frontier, that would place the events of the film in 2287. Though the dating issue is the least of the film's problems, it just seems to be one more thing that Star Trek V: The Final Frontier has standing between it and film perfection. Number 2. Sean Connery's involvement has been exaggerated throughout the years. One of the first facts that seems to pop up whenever discussing Star Trek V is that the mystical planet of Shakari was named in honor of Sean Connery, who had been approached to play the role of Sybok in the film. However, his commitments on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade prevented him from appearing, and that was that. In an interview before his death, Harve Bennett was asked about the film. In the article, he was asked, was Connery ever close to signing on? Bennett, without any hesitation, bluntly stated no. Now, whether that means he was never actually approached, or that there was simply never was an option of having him appear, it's a little unclear, but reporting that Connery almost played Sybok is certainly an exaggeration of the facts when it came to making the film. Number 1. The moon is a window to heaven. The fan dance has become an iconic scene in the franchise for its slightly ridiculous, yet inarguably sensual delivery. There is no question in that it most certainly is Nichelle Nichols standing on that hill. When asked if she really was nude for filming, she said yes, bar a G-string. What the audience sees on screen is exactly what happened on set. What the audience hears is another thing altogether. Nichols was an accomplished singer, so when she was told that she would be involved in a musical scene of the film, she naturally believed that she would also be providing the vocals. However, at the end of the production schedule, as it loomed, she noted that ADR had not taken place, which left her curious as to what the plan was. When asked by fans if they would be hearing her voice, she enthusiastically replied yes, and then the film was released. The singing voice heard in the film is credited to Man Chung, the vocalist for the band Hiroshima. The band, along with Jerry Goldsmith and lyricist John Bettis, composed the tune. While the song was a success and would be one of the few original songs ever written for Star Trek, no one informed Nichols of the switch, leaving her both embarrassed embarrassed and angry at the film's premiere. And that is everything for our list on 20 things you never knew about Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Do you reckon I missed anything off this list? Let me know, drop it into the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Every time you subscribe, you are helping this channel to grow. We are heading for 200,000 subscribers by summer of 2022, and by clicking subscribe, you can help make that a reality. You are awesome. Thank you so much. Now, until I see you again, you look after yourself, you look after your friends and family, and you live long and prosper. Thanks very much.